Vanessa stood there holding luggage. Not a handbag, not a purse, not an overnight bag. A suitcase, a real suitcase. The kind people carry when they aren't planning on coming back. Marcus stared at it, then stared at her, then back at it again. Because sometimes your brain sees something before your heart agrees to believe it. Vanessa? One word. That was all he managed. She avoided eye contact. Marcus felt every strange moment from the past few months return at once. Late-night texts, locked phone screens, long showers, cold conversations, canceled plans, short answers, distance, tiny cracks, tiny signs, tiny things easy to ignore when you love someone. People say betrayal arrives suddenly. Marcus disagreed. Betrayal whispers before it screams. You just don't hear it while you're busy trusting. Vanessa finally looked at him, and Marcus searched her face desperately. Not for love, for hesitation, for regret, for confusion, anything. Just something. Instead, she sighed. Not sadly, not emotionally. Annoyed, like he was delaying her schedule. Marcus stared. What's going on? Silence. Then Vanessa crossed her arms. Marcus, you're a good man. The second he heard those words, Marcus felt something drop inside his chest. Because nobody starts a sentence that way before saying something good. Darius leaned against the Ferrari and watched, smiling. Enjoying every second, Vanessa continued. You really are. Marcus said nothing. You've always been kind. Silence. You've always been loyal. Silence. You've always been dependable. Silence. Then she looked away. But honestly, I'm tired. Marcus blinked. Tired? Vanessa nodded slowly. Yes. Tired of what? She looked toward the Ferrari, then toward Darius, then back at Marcus. Tired of waiting. Marcus frowned. Waiting for what? She hesitated, then said words Marcus would never forget. Tired of small thinking. Silence. Marcus looked at her. Small thinking? After everything? After 12 years together? After sacrifices? After sleeping on old furniture in tiny apartments years earlier? After eating instant noodles together while dreaming about building a future? Small thinking? Marcus almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because if Vanessa only knew, if she truly knew. Marcus lived carefully. Simple clothes, simple watches, simple routines. No showing off. No fake social media lifestyle. No rented private jets for photos. No pretending. Because years earlier, Marcus learned a lesson from an older entrepreneur who changed his life forever. That man once said, people obsessed with looking rich often spend years becoming poor. Marcus never forgot that. Real wealth moved quietly. Real success needed discipline. Real power didn't scream. But Marcus never explained those things to people. Because wisdom taught privately often sounds like arrogance when spoken publicly. Darius finally pushed himself away from the Ferrari. He walked toward Marcus slowly, confidently, smiling, then tossed the Ferrari keys into the air. Caught them. Smiled again. You all right, Marcus? Marcus looked at him calmly. Darius grinned wider. You look shocked. Shocked? Marcus wasn't shocked. Not completely. Deep down, he had seen pieces of this story coming. Tiny pieces. Pieces men often ignore because accepting reality hurts more than denying it. Still, no man truly prepares himself for seeing his wife leave with another man. Especially not like this. Especially while another man acts like he won. Vanessa grabbed her suitcase handle, then looked directly into Marcus's eyes. I deserve more. 4 words, just 4. But they landed harder than shouting. Because Marcus remembered another Vanessa. The Vanessa who once sat beside him on a tiny apartment floor years ago, eating takeout and laughing over absolutely nothing. The Vanessa who once held his hand and whispered, we'll build together. The Vanessa who believed in dreams, not price tags, not status, dreams. Marcus looked at her quietly. And strangely, he didn't feel anger, not rage, not panic, just silence. Because years earlier, Marcus had learned something else. Emotion creates reactions. Discipline creates decisions. And Marcus spent years training himself to pause before responding. So while Darius expected shouting, while Vanessa expected begging, Marcus did neither. Instead, he looked slowly toward the Ferrari. White Ferrari SF90. Beautiful car. Very beautiful. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. Because there was one small detail nobody standing there knew. Not Vanessa, not Darius, not the neighbors pretending not to watch. Nobody. Marcus looked carefully toward the lower windshield corner. Tiny sticker, small logo, easy to miss. But Marcus noticed details. Always. Disciplined people pay attention. Darius laughed. What, thinking of buying one? Marcus looked up, smiled slightly, then quietly said, No. Pause. Just wondering. Silence. Something changed. Very slightly. Vanessa noticed it first. Marcus felt different. Too calm. Too comfortable. Too steady. Because people watching their marriage collapse usually react emotionally. But Marcus wasn't reacting at all. And suddenly, for the first time all evening, Vanessa looked nervous. Darius opened the Ferrari door. Vanessa climbed inside. Engine started. Soft growl. Beautiful sound. The Ferrari slowly rolled backward. Marcus stood silently with hands in pockets. Watching. Watching carefully. Then right before the Ferrari reached the street, his phone vibrated. Buzz. Marcus looked down. Unknown notification. He opened it. Read 7 words. And for the first time that entire evening, Marcus smiled. Vehicle SF90 currently active. Rental tracking enabled. Marcus stared at the message for several seconds. Vehicle SF90 currently active. Rental tracking enabled. 7 words. That was it. No dramatic warning. No giant secret revealed. No emotional speech. Just 7 simple words glowing on a phone screen beneath a quiet evening sky. Yet Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not anger. Not revenge. Clarity. Because sometimes pain removes distraction. Sometimes heartbreak forces people to see things they avoided for years. The Ferrari had already disappeared beyond the street corner. The sound of its engine slowly faded into silence until there was nothing left except wind moving through palm trees and distant traffic far away. Marcus stood completely still. Across the street, curtains moved. Neighbors slowly returned inside. People had watched everything. The suitcase, the Ferrari, the boyfriend, the wife, the humiliation, because people naturally stop when they see disaster happening to someone else. Human beings are curious. Some watch because they care. Others watch because tragedy briefly distracts them from their own problems. Marcus understood that. He looked down, then quietly locked his phone. No reaction, no screaming, no chasing the car, no emotional breakdown. People often misunderstand disciplined men. They think emotional control means feeling nothing. That isn't true. Marcus felt everything. Every memory, every disappointment, every question, every crack forming inside his chest. But years earlier, an older businessman once taught him something that permanently changed his thinking. Never make permanent decisions during temporary emotions. Marcus never forgot those words. Pain clouds judgment. Anger destroys timing. Emotion creates noise. Discipline creates direction. Marcus slowly walked back inside the house. The moment the front door closed, the silence felt heavier. Different. Strange. A home can look identical while feeling completely unfamiliar. Marcus stood near the kitchen and looked around. Wedding photographs, vacation pictures, frames filled with memories. 12 years. 12 years reduced to silence. He looked at a photo from years earlier. Tiny apartment. Cheap furniture. Plastic chairs. Young Marcus. Young Vanessa. Back when dreams mattered more than appearances. Marcus remembered those days clearly. There was no Ferrari, no designer clothes, no luxury lifestyle. Just hope. Back then, Vanessa used to sit beside him on the floor eating takeout while helping him. Write business ideas in notebooks. She used to smile while saying, "We'll build something together." Marcus closed his eyes. Because memory becomes painful when reality changes. He walked into the kitchen and filled a glass with water. Not alcohol, water. Simple choices matter during difficult moments. People often destroy tomorrow trying to numb today. Marcus had watched that happen many times. Stress creates shortcuts. Pain creates bad habits. But discipline creates survival. His phone vibrated. "Incoming call!" "Ethan Cole," Marcus answered. "Talk to me." Ethan immediately spoke. "Boss, everything all right?" Marcus looked outside toward the empty driveway. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Ethan noticed something immediately. Marcus rarely activated personal vehicle notifications. Almost never. Marcus sat down slowly. Why are you asking? Silence. Keyboard sounds. Then Ethan answered carefully. Because something looked unusual. Marcus waited. Details matter. People who notice details become valuable. That lesson helped Marcus build everything. Ethan continued. Boss, you remember what you told us during leadership training? Marcus looked down. What part? The part where you said successful people pay attention to small things because small things become large problems later. Marcus smiled slightly. He remembered. Every month, Marcus gathered employees and shared lessons. Not because he wanted control. Because leadership isn't about telling people what to do. Leadership means helping people think better. Marcus once told his employees, people think business is about money. Wrong. Business is about trust. Money simply follows trust. Ethan cleared his throat. The SF-90 reservation changed 3 days ago. Marcus looked forward. Changed how? Pause. More keyboard sounds. Then silence. Long silence. Ethan? Boss, another person was added to the rental profile. Marcus said nothing. Darius King. Silence. Long silence. Marcus stared ahead. No expression changed. Nothing moved. Finally, Ethan spoke carefully. You know him? Marcus looked toward the wedding photograph hanging nearby, then slowly answered, No. Pause. I know enough. Ethan stayed silent. That was another reason Marcus trusted him. Mature people understand something important. Not every silence requires questions. Loyal people know when to wait. Marcus stood up, walked toward his office, opened the door. Immediately, everything felt familiar. Simple shelves. Business books, whiteboards, systems, charts, plans. Nothing flashy. No giant luxury decorations. No fake trophies. No gold statues. No pictures pretending success existed. Marcus believed something most people misunderstood. Real success begins quietly. People see finished results. They never see repeated routines. Nobody applauds ordinary discipline. Nobody celebrates consistency. But consistency changes everything. Marcus sat behind his desk and looked around slowly. Years earlier, nobody believed in him. Nobody. Not banks. Not investors. Not friends. Not relatives. Marcus worked morning shifts, night shifts, weekends, anything available. Saved every dollar. Spent carefully. Studied endlessly. Because years earlier, another mentor told him, most people overestimate 1 year and underestimate 10 disciplined years. Marcus built his life around that idea. He remembered sitting inside tiny coffee shops studying businesses, while people laughed at him. Too focused. Too boring. Too serious. Too obsessed. Funny thing about discipline, people mock it until results appear. Then suddenly everyone wants your secret. Marcus opened a desk drawer. Inside sat old business notebooks, ideas, failures, plans, calculations, years of invisible effort. Marcus smiled. Because his first rental vehicle wasn't a Ferrari, wasn't luxury, wasn't impressive. It was an old used car nobody cared about. Marcus cleaned it himself, delivered it himself, scheduled everything himself, answered customer calls himself, made mistakes himself. Because before success becomes visible, sacrifice stays invisible. People want outcomes. Very few people want process. Marcus remembered sleeping 4 hours some nights, remembered eating cheaply, remembered missing vacations, remembered saying no repeatedly. Because delayed gratification creates advantages emotional people rarely understand. Short-term comfort often creates long-term regret. Long-term discipline often creates short-term discomfort. Marcus chose discomfort. Repeatedly. Phone vibration. Another message. Ethan. Marcus looked down. The SF-90 location updated. Marcus opened it. New destination. Grand Crescent Hotel. Marcus slowly stood, because he knew exactly what that place was. Luxury. Exclusive. Famous. Influencers. Athletes. Celebrities. Status. People visited places like that hoping to feel important. Suddenly, Marcus remembered something. 6 months earlier, Vanessa sat scrolling through social media videos. Luxury trips. Private jets. Expensive dinners. Perfect lives. She quietly whispered, I wonder what life at that level feels like. Marcus remembered smiling. Back then, he answered, social media shows lifestyles, not realities. Vanessa said nothing afterward. Marcus understood something now. Some people become addicted to appearances. Not truth. Appearances. Because appearance gives instant validation. Real success gives delayed rewards. And delayed rewards require patience. Marcus looked outside again. Darkness slowly replaced sunlight. Then his phone vibrated one more time. Message from Ethan. Marcus opened it. 5 words. 5 words that immediately changed everything. Boss, there's someone else with them. Marcus stared at Ethan's message. Boss, there's someone else with them. 5 words. Short. Simple. But strange. Marcus read the message again. Then again. Because Darius and Vanessa being together made sense. Painful sense. But someone else? That didn't fit. Marcus immediately called Ethan. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, Boss. Marcus walked toward the window. Who? Silence. Keyboard sounds. More silence. Then Ethan spoke. I don't know yet. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? I mean someone joined them after they arrived. Marcus looked outside. Streetlights slowly illuminated the road beyond his house. Cars moved quietly beneath the night sky. Everything looked normal. Funny how life does that. The world keeps moving even when your own world feels frozen. Ethan continued. Hotel security cameras from the vehicle arrival feed just updated. Marcus stayed silent. Boss? Pause. I think you should see this. Marcus looked down. Message incoming. Video attached. Marcus opened it. Grand Crescent Hotel entrance. Luxury cars. Valets. Bright lights. People everywhere. Then the Ferrari entered the frame. White SF90. Darius stepped out first. Smiling. Confident. Exactly the same. Vanessa exited next. And for a moment, Marcus simply watched her. Because something felt strange. Very strange. She looked happy. But not deeply happy. Surface happy. Temporary happy. The type of happiness people wear when they want others watching. Then suddenly someone entered frame. A man. Older. Gray suit. Luxury watch. Confident posture. Darius shook his hand immediately. Marcus frowned. Then Ethan spoke. Boss, recognize him? Marcus stared harder. And then suddenly remembered. Marcus sat down slowly. Because he knew exactly who the man was. Trevor Mason. Social media investor. Luxury lifestyle personality. Millions of followers. Millions. Trevor became famous teaching people how to look successful. Private jet photos. Luxury dinners. Exotic vacations. Perfect videos. Perfect life. Marcus remembered him because several years earlier, Trevor approached Marcus with a business proposal. Marcus said no. Fast. Very fast. Because Marcus researched people before partnerships. Always. Research protects emotion. Research protects time. Research protects business. Marcus discovered something interesting back then. Trevor didn't own most things online. He rented experiences, rented watches, rented vehicles, rented locations, rented images. Marcus remembered one lesson he later shared with employees. Never confuse visibility with value. Because visible success and real success are often strangers. Marcus watched the video again. Trevor laughed loudly. Darius laughed louder. Vanessa smiled. Then the three disappeared inside. Marcus looked forward quietly. Interesting. Very interesting. Ethan finally spoke. You okay, boss? Marcus smiled slightly. Yeah. Silence. Then Ethan laughed softly. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What? Ethan hesitated. Can I say something honestly? Marcus leaned back. When have you ever asked permission? Ethan laughed again. Then said, They look rich. Pause. Really rich? Marcus nodded. They do. Silence. Then Marcus added, That's the point. Pause. Ethan stopped laughing. Because Marcus wasn't joking. People spend enormous energy creating appearances. Expensive clothes, expensive cars, expensive photos, expensive lifestyles. Because human beings naturally want admiration, want status, want approval. Marcus understood that. Everyone wants to matter. But Marcus also learned something years earlier. Attention and respect are not identical. Attention arrives quickly. Respect arrives slowly. Attention disappears quickly too. Marcus remembered one of his earliest business mistakes. Years ago, after finally making good money, Marcus bought an expensive watch. Not because he loved watches, because he wanted people to notice, wanted validation, wanted proof, and for several days people noticed. Compliments. Questions. Attention! Marcus smiled, remembering it. Because 3 weeks later, nobody cared anymore. Nobody. The excitement disappeared. But the payment remained. Marcus learned something powerful afterward. People quickly get used to your upgrades. That's why chasing validation never ends. Marcus shared that lesson many times. Because real confidence isn't built by making strangers impressed. Real confidence appears when you stop needing strangers impressed. Ethan interrupted his thoughts. Boss? Marcus looked down. Yeah? Silence. Then, I checked payment information. Marcus froze slightly. Interesting. What about it? Pause. Long pause. Then Ethan said, the SF90 monthly rental extension payment bounced. Silence. Marcus looked ahead. No reaction. Nothing. Then Ethan continued carefully. Twice. Marcus stood slowly. Twice? That changed things. Because luxury vehicles cost money. Real money. Marcus walked toward his office bookshelf, thinking. Because one business principle repeatedly proved itself true, reality eventually sends invoices. Always. No exceptions. People can fake things temporarily, can borrow lifestyles, can perform success, can rent appearances. But reality always arrives later asking difficult questions. Marcus stared toward old notebooks nearby. Years earlier, one mentor taught him, ego spends money trying to impress strangers. Discipline spends money building freedom. Marcus built freedom, not performance, not appearances. Freedom. Suddenly, Marcus remembered Vanessa saying something months earlier. She had looked at Marcus one night during dinner. Very randomly, very casually. She asked, why don't you ever buy flashy things? Marcus remembered smiling. Back then he answered, because expensive things should improve life, not replace identity. Vanessa rolled her eyes afterward. At the time, Marcus ignored it. Now he understood. Some people don't want quiet security. They want visible success, visible proof, visible status. Marcus looked back toward the hotel footage. Paused frame. Darius smiling. Trevor smiling. Vanessa smiling. 3 people, 3 smiles. Yet something suddenly caught Marcus's attention. Very small detail. Very small. Marcus leaned closer, zoomed in, again, then froze. Because hanging from Trevor Mason's wrist, Marcus recognized a watch. Not just any watch. One of Marcus's company partnership event gifts. Limited edition. Extremely limited. And suddenly Marcus realized something. Trevor Mason wasn't meeting Darius by accident. Marcus slowly reached for his phone. Called Ethan. Immediate answer. Boss? Marcus looked toward the paused screen. Then quietly asked, Ethan. Pause. Pull every record connected to Trevor Mason. Silence. Then Ethan answered, Boss? Pause. I already did. Marcus frowned. What? Long silence. Then Ethan finally said, You're not going to believe this. Marcus stared at Ethan without saying a word. Silence filled the office. Not because there was nothing to say, because sometimes information arrives so unexpectedly that the brain needs time to organize reality. Outside the glass walls of Marcus's office, employees moved through the luxury showroom floor beneath bright morning sunlight. Ferraris reflected light across polished marble. Lamborghinis sat beside Rolls-Royces like expensive pieces of artwork. Customers walked through the building admiring machines worth more than some homes. Everything looked normal, but Marcus knew something had changed. Ethan stood near the desk holding his tablet. Boss? Marcus looked up slowly. Yeah. Ethan hesitated. The SF90 return schedule just updated. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Tomorrow? Ethan nodded. 11 o'clock. Silence. Marcus looked through the office window toward the lower showroom, then smiled slightly. Not because he felt happy, because timing had a strange sense of humor. Years ago, Marcus learned another important business lesson. Life often reveals truth through timing. People can hide intentions temporarily. People can perform success temporarily. People can create appearances temporarily. But time eventually removes costumes, always. Marcus stood and walked toward the large glass windows overlooking the city. Sunlight stretched across distant buildings. Beautiful morning, peaceful. Funny how the world continues moving while personal storms happen silently. Marcus crossed his arms. No anger, No revenge, no panic. Because Marcus understood something most people never learn. Pain becomes dangerous when emotions start making decisions. Years earlier, Marcus failed his first company because emotion replaced discipline. Back then, he trusted the wrong business partner. Trusted words, trusted promises, trusted excitement. Months later, Marcus lost almost everything. Money, time, confidence. Back then, Marcus wanted revenge. Real revenge. He wanted the man responsible to feel exactly what he felt. Then an older mentor visited him. The man sat quietly beside Marcus for almost 30 minutes, saying absolutely nothing. Then before leaving, he spoke only one sentence. "Pain is expensive. Be careful what it makes you buy." Marcus never forgot those words. Because pain purchases terrible decisions. Marcus turned around. "Ethan." "Yeah, boss." "Set tomorrow's SF90 return under executive review." Ethan blinked. Silence. Then, "Executive review?" Marcus nodded. "Personally." Ethan stared several seconds, then suddenly understood. Eyes widened slightly. "Oh!" Marcus smiled. Just slightly. No drama. No speeches. Just clarity. The next morning, Marcus arrived early. Very early. Long before customers. Long before meetings. Long before noise. The luxury showroom looked beautiful in morning sunlight. Glass walls. Marble floors. Rows of exotic vehicles. Ferrari. Rolls-Royce. McLaren. Lamborghini. Dreams lined up in perfect rows. Marcus slowly walked through the building. Employees greeted him immediately. "Morning, boss." "Good morning, Mr. Hayes." "Morning." Marcus smiled politely. Simple. Normal. He never demanded attention. Marcus believed something strongly. The louder leaders become, the weaker leadership usually is. Real authority rarely introduces itself. Marcus entered the executive conference room overlooking the entire showroom floor. Floor-to-ceiling glass. Large polished table. City skyline view. Everything clean. Simple. Professional. Ethan entered holding coffee. But Ethan looked nervous. Very nervous. Marcus looked up. "You all right?" Ethan laughed awkwardly. "You seem too calm." Marcus smiled slightly. "Panic has terrible leadership skills." Ethan sat down. Silence. Then his phone vibrated. He looked down immediately. Then back up. Then down again. Marcus noticed instantly. Small details. Disciplined people notice details. "What?" Ethan swallowed. Pause. Long pause. Then, "The SF90 just entered the property." Silence. Marcus stood slowly. Walked toward the conference room glass. Looked outside. And there it was. White Ferrari SF90, slowly entering the circular driveway beneath bright sunlight. Beautiful car. Very beautiful. The same car Marcus watched disappear yesterday. Funny. Very funny. Because yesterday it looked like defeat. Today? Today looked different. The Ferrari rolled forward. Stopped. Driver door opened. Darius stepped out first. Same designer sunglasses. Same expensive clothes. Same confidence. Same performance. Marcus watched quietly. Then Vanessa stepped out. And immediately Marcus noticed something. Very small. Very important. No smile. Interesting. Yesterday she smiled. Yesterday she looked victorious. Today? Nothing. No excitement. No energy. No celebration. Just silence. Marcus looked carefully. Years building businesses taught him something. Words communicate information. Expressions communicate truth. Darius laughed loudly near Valet's staff. Talking, smiling, performing. Marcus looked toward Ethan. "Bring them upstairs." Silence. Ethan blinked. "You serious?" Marcus looked at him. Very calmly. Ethan immediately stood. "Right." Minutes later, Marcus sat quietly at the head of the executive table. Hands folded, suit perfectly pressed, expression calm. No anger, no performance, no emotion. Just control. Outside the glass walls, employees moved normally. Phones rang. People walked. Business continued. Then footsteps approached. Voices. Door opened. Darius entered smiling. Vanessa behind him. Then both froze. Immediately. Completely. Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Marcus slowly looked up. No expression changed. Nothing. Vanessa stared. Darius stared. Marcus stared back. Seconds passed. Long seconds, then longer. Darius looked around, confused, then laughed nervously. "What is this?" Silence. Marcus said nothing. Ethan entered and placed paperwork onto the table. Still silence. Darius laughed again. Smaller laugh. Forced laugh. "No, seriously." Pause. "What is this?" Marcus calmly looked toward Ethan, then back toward Darius. Finally. "Morning." Silence. Vanessa slowly sat down, hands shaking slightly. Marcus noticed immediately, but said nothing. Because humiliation was never his goal. Truth was enough. Darius stared, then looked toward Ethan, then around the conference room, then toward Marcus again. "No." Pause. "No way." Silence. Marcus leaned back. Darius laughed once more. But this time nobody joined him. Not Vanessa, not Ethan, nobody. Then Darius finally asked, "You work here?" Marcus looked out through the glass toward the showroom floor. Ferraris below, employees below, years of work below, then quietly answered, "No." Pause. Long pause. Then, "I built this." Silence. Absolute silence. Vanessa slowly looked toward Marcus, eyes widening. Confusion. Real confusion. Marcus saw memories replaying behind her eyes. Late meetings. Business trips. Phone calls. Long work hours. Everything. Pieces connecting. Everything suddenly made sense. Darius looked toward Marcus, then toward the Ferrari downstairs, then back again. Silence. Finally, "You own this company?" Marcus smiled slightly, then looked directly into his eyes. "No." Pause. Then, "My company owns several." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because suddenly yesterday changed. Everything changed. The Ferrari changed. The story changed. The power changed. Marcus looked toward Darius calmly, then quietly asked, "Nice car." Silence. Then, "How long have you had it?" Darius froze, because suddenly he remembered. Yesterday. Driveway. Same question. Same words. Marcus slowly folded his hands, then leaned forward slightly, and quietly said, "Never confuse access with ownership." Silence. Then Marcus looked toward Vanessa. Not angry, not bitter, just disappointed, and finally spoke one last time. "Luxury can be rented." Pause. "Status can be borrowed." Pause. "But character?" Long silence. "Character belongs to the person who builds it."